Hey y'all, Coach in the Fight here, guys. Stacy with me.
Shalom.
And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the date of the Feast of Tabernacles.
Okay.
It's fast approaching within the week here, and a lot of people are asking when is the date, and I'm sure they're wanting to know exactly the date. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at some verses, and then we're going to actually look at some moon data to see exactly when the Feast of Tabernacles will start, and even give some detail on that whole 8-day celebration.
All right.
All right. Now we're actually only going to cover about 2 verses here in Leviticus 23, 2 or 3 verses. So it's not going to be a very long class. But we're going to start down here in verse 33. Stacy, if you would, please you read that, please.
And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying.
So this is our Father who is telling Moses, who is his spokesman, to give the following message.
Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord.
So that's what we're talking about, the Feast of Tabernacles being on the 15th day of the month, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we're talking about the sacred month, right?
Yes.
We're going to get into a little bit of that as we determine the exact date. But I would like, if you would you talk on that Israel part where it says the children of Israel? Who is he talking to there?
Well, from our studies, we're talking about in this present time. Are you asking me in this present time or at that
today,
time?
When we read this, who is he talking about? The people way back then, and we can ignore this, or who is he talking about when he says children of Israel?
Well, in this present time, the Father is speaking to those who have he's speaking to spiritual Israel,
right?
Spiritual Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So that
those
is
that are keeping the commandments, following the instructions that help lead to this spiritual transition, who your Father has always wanted us to be.
Yeah, he's not speaking to a certain group, a certain race, or a certain nation of people. It literally can be any group, race,
right. It's
or
not
nation.
based on bloodline or anything like that. All right. And we bring it up. We do a lot of classes on this kind of stuff. If you're new to the channel, we can see some other classes where we go into detail on that. So, but let's look closer at this. What it's saying, the 15th day of the 7th month. All right. Now, to understand when the 15th day of the 7th month is, we must understand when the first day of the 7th month is, right?
Yes.
And of course, since we're talking about the sacred month, we have to look at the moon data, and because it is the moon that determines the month, right?
Yes.
New moon, new month,
mm-hmm.
right? Like we said, we've done plenty of classes on the calendar as well. But what I'm showing you here is that on the 7th of October, we had a new moon. Mm-hmm. Right, we see the calculation here, but we actually were out there that evening on October the 7th,
and we verified that their day a new moon happened.
Yeah, we actually got to see the sliver in the sky.
Yes,
and we blew the trumpets as we were instructed to do in the previous verses.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be the beginning of the 7th month.
Right.
It started at sunset on the 7th of October.
Yes.
Making the 8th of October the official day 1, or the new moon day.
Yes.
That's when we had our new moon celebration and stuff, was on the 8th of October during the daylight hours. Mm-hmm. Right? So when we're going through this, we could easily flip. So you would say the new moon was on the evening of October the 7th. So October the 8th would be day 1. 9th would be day 2, 10th day 3, 11 4, 12 5, 13 6, 14 7, 8, 9, 10. The Day of Atonement was on October the 17th. The 18th would have been the 11th day of the month. Then you have the 19th, 12, the 20th, 13. The 21st will be the 14th day of the month. Now, you remember we're talking about the daylight hours here.
Right.
The 14th day of the month would have actually started on the evening of the 20th.
Right.
So the evening of October the 21st will begin the 15th day of the month.
Right.
So the official first day of the feast, the daylight hours of the feast, will be October the 22nd.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go back to our verses here. So verse 34, that's what he's talking about when he says the 15th day of the 7th month. Like we said, it will start on the 21st and end at sunset on the 22nd. That will begin the Feast of Tabernacles, which it says here is a 7-day feast unto the Lord.
Yes.
All right, if you will, go ahead to verse 35.
On the first day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
Okay, now here it's talking about the Sabbath day, right? We know now that the Sabbath days are on the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, and even the 29th day of the month, of the lunation. Each time we get a new month, we start counting up until we get to these days. For those that are new, they say, well, I thought the Sabbath day was on the 7th. Well, you have to understand that the first day of the month is a Sabbath day in itself, too, because it's the new moon day.
Yes.
It's not a work day, so that's not really counted in the work week. You start counting your work week on the second day of the month, which makes the 8th day the 7th work day, or the 7th day of the work week.
Right.
And also the 15th as well, which is the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles. It falls on the 15th day of the month, which automatically makes it a Sabbath day.
Right.
And so that's what he's talking about here when he says no servile work. Now, we're going to do more classes on this, Lord willing. We're going to do it in this kind of rapid fire format, where we're going to talk about this servile work and what it actually means.
Yes.
But we're talking about timing now. So let's jump down to verse 36.
7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein.
Right there, and you see right there in verse 37, it's starting to wrap it up. It's talking about the these are the feast of the Lord, right? So you see, this is kind of almost like a conclusion. If you do scroll down, you see he goes into details of the Feast of Tabernacles here below, right?
Yes.
But we'll get into that in another class when we start talking about what it is that we're supposed to do on that day. We're talking about timing here, and in verse 36 we see that this is a 8-day long festival, and it's giving us details on what it is that we're supposed to do on those days.
Right.
We'll cover the offering made by fire in another class. We've actually already done it, so we may just give a link to it. But what we're seeing here, that this is a 8th-day celebration, but the key days are the first day and the 8th day.
Yes.
That's what they call like Shemini Atzeret or something like that. It's the 8th day is kind of like its own separate feast in itself.
Because on the 7 other previous days you can do, not to say you can do anything you want to, but you can use them as, I guess, like regular days. But on the first day is when you make the offering and you do no servile work, and on the 8th day as well.
Well, you do the offerings the entire week. But you're absolutely right. The first day and the 8th day are the big days. In fact, the 8th day is what most consider the biggest, most important day of the festival, the 8th day. Right?
Like a high day, yeah.
Yeah, the holy high day. All right, so now let's go over and let's look at a calendar right quick. We'll look at the Gregorian calendar because that's how most of us keep up with days. And we see that the 22nd will actually be on a Friday.
Yes.
So that's when we'll be having the daylight celebration of the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. And the 23rd will be the second day of the feast.
Yes.
And it looks to me, unless my fingers are telling me wrong, it looks like the 29th will be the 8th day.
Yes.
All right. So that is the timing. When it's Tabernacles, it starts the evening of the 21st, and it ends on the evening of the 29th with that 8th day celebration.
Yes.
All right. So like we said, we want to do other classes getting into what we're supposed to do and other details about the feast, but we just wanted to get this one out as quickly as we can. You guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can see when those other classes come out. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you didn't, please hit the dislike button. But Stacy, you got anything else?
I would just like to to hear if they are celebrating tabernacles with us this time, because I know that there are previous ones who have celebrated it maybe about a month ago. So
yeah, a lot of people are celebrated it last month. If they were following the Jewish calendar, but that was kind of like a dress rehearsal, So might not be a bad thing that, you know, they get to try it all again.
Yeah.
Especially those that had fun. They get to have the fun all over, get to do it 2 months in a row.
The children will probably enjoy it.
Hey, I bet they will, and especially people that like to eat. It's like having Thanksgiving.
And camp.
Yeah.
And camp out.
A lot of fun. So you guys pay attention to this feast day and other videos. Go ahead and read Leviticus 23, the rest of those verses we was talking about to finish out the chapter, so you can get the details on some of the other things you're supposed to do, like Stacy said, camping out. But in the meantime, shalom.
Shalom.